Welcome back to another episode of Local Leverage, the podcast that helps you grow your business. Today, we're diving into a new twist on an established industry, high-level sales training in the real estate title space. While title companies are typically known for their conservative approach, our guest flips the narrative, bringing cutting-edge strategies to a field where outbound innovation is pretty rare. For more than 3 decades, he's been the go-to expert for professionals looking to scale, dominate, and seize their local market. His revolutionary methods have generated over $400 million in revenue for businesses nationwide, and his impact is clear in the success of over 6,000 sales reps and 3,500 escrow officers trained under his guidance. Please join me in welcoming the title sales legend, Darryl Turner.
Well, thanks for having me, Mark.
It's our pleasure. I think I have a background in sales myself, primarily enterprise, but I've also sold to consumers and to small businesses. And I always love talking to sales experts. There's just so much to learn. And I'm also just a believer that sales permeates everything we do in business, whether you want to call yourself a salesman or not.
Right.
At the end of the day, you're selling. How did you find the niche and also the awareness that, hey, this is something that I love and I want to coach and train people on?
Well, that's a great question. Based on the personality of people, certain things they're more passionate. Some people are more passionate about operations. Some people are more passionate about the technical side of any business. For me, I was always super passionate, Mark, about sales. That was the exciting side of business. And again, not everybody sees sales as the exciting side. Some people, it scares them, and
Sure.
But for me, it was the exciting part of the business. My sales career goes back into the 80s, and I'm thinking you probably weren't even born yet, Mark.
I'll tell you what, not only was I born, but my sales career goes back to the late 80s. So.
Okay, all right. I got you beat. I'm in the early 80s.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's, that's where I started, and I didn't realize that's where I was going to start. Actually, I started, believe it or not, in a warehouse for a company, and quickly realized that sales is where I wanted to be, and I just worked toward that. And man, the rest is history.
Was it ever scary for you, and did it just come naturally and you just fell into
Yeah,
it?
it was. I had a day. When I was in training to be an outside salesperson, I really wanted to do that. Back in those days, the outside salesperson for the company, I wore jeans. They wore corduroys. It's like I got to have the corduroys, and they had a company car, and I know they were out, whining and dining clients, and it's like that looks like the perfect job, and so I was in training for a while, and I actually competed with another guy who was in training, and only one of us was going to get this position. And then I got the position, right? And then I get in my little fancy company car that I just got, and I remember my first sales call in person. And I drove up, and I realized right then, I'm all by myself. Okay?
Yep.
And I really had to think through it. And I had good training. I was trained in the Xerox sales training structure,
Okay.
Back in the day. And I don't know what you know about Xerox. It is the most intense training you can have. You have to pay attention. You have to be great with questions. You have to be able to fill in dialogue. It was I had 5 days of listening to, and this is how far back it goes, listening to a cassette recorder that the moderator was playing of a sales dialogue. And they had a screen around them where you couldn't see the twister board that they were flicking or whatever kind of board it was. We were all assigned a number. And so when they would flip it, and they knew the number. They knew who was coming up next, but we didn't know. And all of a sudden the dialogue on the sales conversation would just stop. And they would say your number, and you were required to continue the dialogue. Okay. Now, day number 1, everybody screwed up. Day number 1 was comical, but it really was a stretch, and we had fun with it. And by day 5, it was like you understood questions, you understood how to interact, you understood how to pay attention, you didn't miss anything. Best sales training ever. But my first in-person sales call, maybe the whole day, I was pretty nervous. And then I realized that sales is not manipulation.
Right.
Sales is not getting somebody to do what they don't want to do. Sales is solving problems. Selling is serving. Selling is basically helping an individual that's in a tight spot loosen up that tight spot, whether it be the acquisition of a product or the acquisition of a service. And, to all the salespeople out there, if you think that fancy words and convincing somebody to do something they don't want to do makes you a good salesperson, it really doesn't.
Right.
Discovery, the art of discovery, Mark, knowing how to find out what's important to people. You know, I mean, we'll give Dennis Wolf a plug here, and I don't know if he stole this quote or where he got it, but he said no one has ever listened their way out of a sale.
I
And
love
it's
that.
like, man, that is so good.
That's
So
spot on.
yes, that's my scary moment. I also had an embarrassing moment. Do you want to hear about that?
Yeah, I do.
Let's throw that in there. I was calling on Gallo Winery, and I was a kid, and there was a room of suits at this long table, and so I remember I went in and I was selling these. Today we buy them for $20 on Amazon, where you point it's infrared, tells you the
Right.
digital temperature. Well, for the winery, they had to hit these lines in the winery all the time. Those things back in the early '80s were $500 and $600, right? And I mean, they were very technical. They were unheard of, and so I went into Gallo and I did a presentation, and I didn't even ask them to buy them. I mean, that's how nervous I was. I didn't even ask for the order, which is a criminal act.
Exactly.
And they bought 10 of them. And I was walking back to my car, and I thought, I can do this job.
Yeah, how did that
I
happen?
get in my car, Mark, and I start the car. I put it in reverse, and as I go back to look over my shoulder, because back then we didn't have backup cameras, I caught a glimpse of my face out of the corner of the rearview mirror, and right here, stuck on my chin, was a piece of bloody tissue that I had stuck on my face.
You went through the whole meeting with
I
that?
kept myself shaving. I went through the whole thing, and nobody ever said anything. I called on those guys for years, and it never came up. And they're like, I know what happened. That was a sympathy sale. They're like, that poor kid. We need to buy something from that poor kid so we can buy a better razor.
Whatever it takes, man. That could be your new thing.
Oh my god!
It's funny. So we have some connections because my first job out of college was with IBM, and similarly, I had a really good sales training process. But I think one of my first calls was actually to Gallo as well. That's super funny.
Awesome.
I remember being terrified going on my first call.
It's an intimidating place.
Yeah, especially when you're representing, I don't know, for me at least, representing IBM. I mean, the positive was like every door flew open. Like if you said, oh, I'm with IBM, hey, come on in. Like there was no gatekeeper. But then once I was in, I was like, oh crap, I'm just, young punk. I don't know what I'm doing. And all these suits are in front of me and professionals. And yeah, it was terrifying for me. And it took me a while to figure out what you said, which is, it's really about helping. It's not about selling or manipulating.
Right. It's not about pushing. It's not about pushing products. Once
I figured that out, though, that was super empowering for me, and it actually allowed me to love sales also for that reason.
It's like going to the doctor. I know when we met the other day, I was speaking to a group, and I might have shared this, but a perfect example of the perfect sales call is a doctor visit. It's 95% discovery. They weigh you, they take your blood pressure, they ask you questions. Then the doctor comes in, asks you a few more questions, and then only then the doctor might prescribe something to solve the problem. That's like the very end, right? Well, that's kind of your presentation. Think about it. If you didn't feel good and you were at the doctor and you went through all that discovery and the doctor said, hey, I have a prescription I could write for you that would solve your problem. Would you want me to do that? There's not a soul in the world that would say no to that, right?
Right, yeah.
That's an example of how we need to act. When we know for a fact that we've discovered everything that we need to discover to truly be able to solve someone's problem. And then we just have to ask them if they would like us to solve their problem.
Right.
And when value is present, the answer is yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
That makes me think about one of my favorite sales quotes, which is prescription without diagnosis is called malpractice.
Malpractice, right?
It's like if you're not listening, if you're not thinking about their issue and their pain, then you don't have the right to sit there and push whatever it is you're trying to sell.
Well, that's the thing. Most companies, what they would call sales training is really product training. And so they get the sales team excited about a new product, a new app, a new tool, a new whatever, right? And so they're excited, and all they want to do is go out and tell people because sales is a transference of enthusiasm, but you have to transfer through discovery. But most people miss that, so they're fired up about what they heard about, and they want to go out and tell everybody, tell the world about it, and they think that the world is automatically going to have the same enthusiasm that they had, and that's the breakdown. Is basically they're prescribing, without diagnosis.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Think back to that Gallo situation. I think I was down there very enthusiastically talking to them about the advantages of a multi-threaded operating system. I don't think anybody gave a crap. But it was, and that was before I had awareness. It was me being about me or about me sharing my product. And I see that so often with small businesses where they are centered on themselves. It's, in the real estate space, it's like, I can do a deal faster, or I can save you commissions, or blah, blah, blah. It's all about them, and instead of making it about the prospect.
Yeah. Here's a great quote for you. Until your prospects' problems or pain points are out on the table, nothing you have is of value.
Absolutely.
And as long as we keep that in mind and we realize it's not about pitching something, it's about discovering something. And if you listen long enough, for me, a lot of people I'd rather be a tangible product salesperson. To me, the intangible is so much better because I can make it fit so many different problems that a tangible has a limited scope of what it can do for a customer,
Right.
but an intangible is, it's unlimited. So back at IBM, then you're familiar with the old AS400?
Yeah, for a while I was an AS400 specialist.
Oh, you work, so it takes up an entire room.
Well, we had the big System 390s and the ES9000s, which were the kind of filled up the room. The AS400s, I don't know, they were maybe as small as something that could actually sit on a desk, and then maybe as big as a room if they got to the big ones. But yeah,
The company I worked for had two of them, and they had a room. They had a dedicated air conditioner just to keep the computer
right.
cool. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's back in the day.
Now we have iPhones.
Well, the funny thing is that iPhone's probably 10 times, 100 times more powerful than that
Incredible.
AS400. Yeah, so it's funny. So I got another curiosity for you. I mean, of all of the things to focus your energy on relative to sales consulting and sales coaching, you're tapping into title agents.
Yeah.
And when I think about title agents, like way down the list would be selling. It seems like. Yet, as I listened to you deliver, a speech to those folks, like one, it was right on point, and it just changed my perspective about selling in that space. How did you come to focus on title agents, and what is it that charges you up that made you continue to just stick with that group?
You know how many times I get this question? People in the title business don't know why they got in the title business, right? And then there's the sales trainer and coach in the title industry that I get this question. I get it all the time. I got in the title business the same way almost everybody does, completely marked by accident.
Okay.
And when I left my corporate job, I was running an organization in California, and I had a good job, but I really love sales. And I thought, I want to speak, I want to do sales training, and so I started a small sales training company, and some people from a title company came to one of my events. And then the next time I did an event, they brought more people. And the next time I did an event, they brought more people. And then I get a call from the company, and they want me to come in and do a all-day Saturday sales seminar for their title reps. Honestly, Mark, I didn't know what a title rep did. I just taught sales in general. And
Interesting.
So I went in and I did it. And then they wanted to hire me as an ongoing trainer and coach under contract for their company. And it was really interesting. The thing I told them is, as long as you let me do it my way, I'll take it on. Now, at that time, we were under contract with Train Air Conditioning Company,
Yep. Yeah.
large company. We were under contract with Miller Beer. We had a lot of different things going. And title insurance was not on our radar. No, we didn't sit back in our office and say, how do we tap into the title business?
Right.
They kind of tapped into us. And so they said, what is your way? Because I want to do it my way. I said, I have to become one of your people. And they said, what do you mean by that? I got to do it out in the field. I got to be on sales calls. I've got to make some sales calls. I've got to be in the trenches with your people so that everything I'm converting for the title industry is spot on for the title industry. Now, and you heard what you heard the other day. That's 30 years of sanding down being spot on. Okay?
Yeah, right.
And frankly, it worked. And that one county called another county, and then they had a county managers meeting, and 5 counties called me. And next thing you know, I'm flying to Hawaii every month, working with the operation in Hawaii. And then I got a call from a gentleman that was doing a conference called the National Title Marketing Conference. His name was Perry Hamilton. He's since passed away. He owned a company called Condell. And he was doing his first one. It was 1997, and he said, he called me up, and he somehow got one of my tapes. This is how long ago it was. It was a cassette tape. And he said, if you do what's on this tape at my event, your company will go nationwide in a day. And he said, he goes, would you like to be a speaker at this event? It was in New Orleans. And he asked me to keynote the opening and keynote the closing. So we had 2 keynote sessions,
Wow, nice.
like bookends. And I told him I'll have to check my schedule. And
A little
of course,
fear of missing out.
it didn't matter what was on my schedule. I was going to change it for this, and I went and did this, and really, it only took about a year, maybe a little bit less, in business. We started in 1994 before we stopped renewing contracts with all the other companies, and we went title specific because, again, 29, almost 30 years ago now, because we saw the need. I saw this huge void, and I saw, if you've ever read the Blue Ocean Strategy, you'll totally get this. I saw Blue Ocean.
Yeah.
There were no sales trainers, there was no sales coaching, there was no anything, and I had been out there figuring out how to develop a process based on what was really happening in the field, and I went and I did it, and it became quite popular and quite effective for these companies. So we were probably only a year old as a company when we just stopped renewing everybody but title companies. Now, about 1,535 title companies we've worked with in one form or fashion. We've coached 7,500 title reps, 3,000 or 4,000 escrow officers. I coach leaders, so if a title agency owner is watching this right now and wants to really work on scaling their business, they would work directly with me. We have 13 full-time coaches. At any point in time, we're coaching as an all-in between 300 and 400 people a week or every other week. We've got a very, very good model, but that's how we got in. We got in
That's
by
cool.
accident and saw Blue Ocean.
That's cool. I mean, that requires some awareness, right? Just to see that opportunity, and also then to just say, hey, I want to really focus in and go all in one area. The thing that's all still perplexing to me is, as I think about, and this is a very naive perspective, but as I think about title, in boom times, if there's a lot of transactions going on in the market, it feels like title almost gets dragged along, right? It's like they're just busy. And so it sounds like maybe at the time that they approached you, they were problem aware, if you will, right? They were maybe in a lull and needing to actually rely on sales and establishing relationships and all of that. Was that just a magical time that came together that way? I mean, because you've probably gone through different ebbs and flows where they're like, I don't really need to sell. I'm just getting a constant flood of opportunity right now.
It's really interesting because 1995 was an economic trough year nationally in real estate. It wasn't tragic. It wasn't a 2009. It wasn't even as rough as 2022, second half of 22, but it was an economic, what we call a trough year in the cycle.
Yeah.
And, they run in a 14-year increments. You probably heard me share that. 81, 95, 09, and 2023 are all 14 years apart. And, one cycle might be 13, one might be 15, but it just depends on how you look at it. But it's really interesting because when the industry's doing well, people reach out to us because they have the resources to better equip their people. And when the industry's not doing well, when the market's not doing well, they reach out to us for a different reason. They really need the results of what we can help them do. The only time that a down market has not played out well for us was 09. And it didn't play out well for anyone. I mean, we changed our agreements. Prior to that, if you signed up with us, you were signing up for a minimum of a year and a half. And in 09, we decided that if we needed a piece of paper to keep a client, we weren't delivering value. So we made it an ongoing, we call it a month to month, but really we only require a 90-day notice if somebody wants to stop working with us. Yeah. Most of our clients are with us for years and years and years, and they don't leave, and they could.
Yeah. Do you find that in those, I'll call them boom years, but when the cycle is high and things are going very easily, does that cause complacency? I mean, do you feel that people back off of their sales skills or
Yes.
their disciplines?
Hot markets ruin good salespeople. It's it's basically it makes us lazy. When the market is really amazing, everybody's a genius. Yeah. And most people don't when they're making a lot of money. And I went back and I'm going to probably make a bunch of title reps really mad right here when I say this. I went back and analyzed 2021, and the best calculation I can come up with is about 65% of the money that most title reps made was unearned. It was just market-driven volume. It was just going crazy, right? And the transactions were coming from everywhere. And so most people in 2021 didn't say, I'm making all this money because of the market.
Right.
But in 2023, they blame the market. It's really amazing how this works. But I'm convinced that abundance can create complacency. and we have to be well disciplined every day to decide we're not going to let that happen. Respectively, 2021 was a great year for sales opportunities because most people were not prospecting.
Yeah.
So
I love that you use the word discipline, because I think that's what it is. And I think about good sales skills and process. It's a discipline.
It is discipline.
And so when things are going well like that, when they're flush with cash and feel like a hero, how are you able to get them to continue to focus on discipline? I mean, that feels like I don't really need to do that right now.
Well, if you go to our website, I don't know if you had an opportunity to check that out, and for your viewers, you go to darrylturner.com and just click on results. We run competitions, national competitions. So we have 3 performance clubs on our website. We have a club called Club 10, which is any rep that generates 10 transactions a month, realtor-driven transactions a month from a new customer. So their book of business doesn't count. So now it's a level playing field. This is over and above your book of business. The average rep in the business produces 0.8 new transactions a month from new customers. It's pathetic.
Wow.
And if you hit 10 or more, you make Club 10, and your name and your ranking nationally is on our website. So even when things are going really well, the truly competitive people, they want to make Club 10, right?
Yeah.
We bonus our coaches too based on the performance of how well the people that they're coaching are doing. So everybody's really thinking about the same thing. The first performance club is Club 10. Any rep on our program can make it. Escrow officers can make it. The top person on our system last year was an escrow officer working our system, selling behind the desk. Okay, and that's the number 1 person in the nation. But so anybody can make Club 10. The next one is pace setters. We take the top 10 people for the quarter, and we put them in another section. So that's another performance group. Okay, and then the last one is winner circle. We take the top 5 for the year, and we put them in another section. Right, and they get a nice plaque from us. They get a bottle of fancy champagne.
Nice.
With the logo on it, Winner Circle logo on it, and they get a free ticket to Title Sales Mastery in Reno, which you're going to be at this year.
I will. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, you're going to love it.
I'm newbie in the title space, but what's the biggest challenge that title agents face, especially in 2025 with the market headwinds we have?
Elaborate a little bit on what you consider the biggest challenge on the scaling side of the business.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, on them generating more business and differentiating themselves from other title reps.
Oh, here we go, man. I love this question. They think marketing is selling, and it's not. I'm amazed at how much money the title industry will spend to avoid having to sell. They give away everything. They have all the gadgets. They waste their money on desk calendars. Yes, I just said that out loud.
Yeah.
And they have an over reliance on that. One of the chapters in one of my books is entitled "Over Reliance Equals Underachievement," and they want to think that there's a way to give enough stuff, enough CE classes, enough widgets, enough app access to avoid selling. And the truth is, that's not possible. Marketing is a lubricant for your sales process. It is not a replacement.
Yeah.
In fact, it goes kind of like this. Advertising gets people to see you. Marketing gets people to know you. Sales gets people to do business with you. Advertising is the highest dollar out in cost per dollar in revenue. Sales is the lowest cost dollar out for each dollar of revenue. Marketing can sit in the middle. Basically, if you want to spend all the money you have and then borrow some and hope it works for you, you're on this side of the fence. If you just realize this is about properly engaging prospects in your market and not chasing title orders. That's another big mistake that they make. They're very unleveraged. Reps are chasing orders, and that is a very bad thing.
Unpack that a little bit for me so I have a better clarity.
Reps need to be chasing customers, okay? The number of active users. You probably saw that Netflix example that I gave in that event that I did. What happened when they lost all their users, their revenue went up, their stock went down, okay? So the value of an organization is not just based on the revenue. It's based on the number of active customers that are doing business with them. And in that same event, you probably also saw me ask specific salespeople if they knew how many people sent them business in December.
Right.
The common answer, everybody had the same answer, I don't know. And running a business, we all have to agree, it's a really good idea to know how many customers you have. So
and where they're coming from.
Yes, and where they're coming from and how you got them. But basically, if a if a real estate agent sends a transaction to a title company, that's not their normal title company. They're usually doing it out of what we call a form of debt repayment. That title company has put some effort into them, has invited them to an event, has hooked them up on their app, has done something. And so that realtor says, I really need to send them an order. But the realtor has no intention of sending anything beyond that. Debt repayment.
That really rocked me when you talked about that. And I think that occurs in other industries as well more often than you'd probably think. And maybe that even happened when you walked out of Gallo with the bloody piece of tissue paper on your chin to some degree. It's like, hey, we're going to give this guy this order, right? I mean, it's like, but then garnering the ongoing business,
yeah,
like that's the key, right? And so it's easy to get trapped though in that. Well, I just got my order, so therefore they're now my customer.
Right. So we have to really. That is an assumption that's made because that falls into the marketing mindset too. They want to make that assumption. They want to assume that they're going to stick around. But our studies show that the first order, there's a 95% chance they will not become a regular directing customer of yours unless you do something different, unless you change your game. But if you can make it to the fifth order, there's a 95% chance they're not going to go away unless you mess up. And so the goal is to get them to that point and to not look at, a sales rep should not look at a real estate agent as a customer. They should look at a real estate agent or their customer as a salesperson for them. I mean, the more people I can get, if I'm a sales rep, the more realtors I can get doing business with me automatically, the bigger my sales team is. And then I can just view myself as their sales manager. How can I help them continually improve? And how can I hire more salespeople, which would be getting more customers to do regular business with me. So they're non-leveraged. So they're transaction centric instead of customer centric, right? We call them unique sources of business, USB, and we have a process of showing them how to count them. And they also set goals around the wrong things. They set it around open orders, closed orders, and revenue. You have to have those goals, but your real goal, those are all rear view mirror goals.
Yeah,
your windshield goal is how many customers do you have, and how many more do you need. Like when I ask an audience a question, how much you want to grow your business next year? 25%, Darryl. How many more customers will it take to do that? Crickets. They don't know. So what are they shooting at? Well, if I hook enough people up on my app, I'll probably do it. No, probably not, because you're not driving with a GPS. You're not following a flight plan. You're just winging it.
Well, so you're tapping into a couple things that I'm curious about and big believer in. You threw out a couple big stats there, right? And so there's some data points about how you're tracking efficiency and effectiveness. And then you're also goal setting in that, right? So you're trying to get very specific about your target and what it takes to reach it. My experience with salespeople in general, it's a general statement, but not always the best with the details and the analytics, right? They're just kind of in their flow selling and trying to do their thing, but maybe a little bit rudderless. How do you go about showing people the science part of sales and how to both set appropriate goals and then to track progress along the way?
Well, there's really two kinds of salespeople out there when it comes to this, and this is a really, really strong, valid point to talk about. Most people get into sales, particularly in the industry that we're in, they get into sales because somebody said you've got the right personality for it. Sometimes they even really mess up and say, look at this person, they've got the gift of gab, we should put them in. They don't even call it sales, they call it marketing. You should become a marketing rep for this company. If you don't have a degree in marketing, you can't be a marketing rep. I'm sorry, that's an excuse to not be a sales rep. But so they come into the business and some of them are excited because they can follow a plan. Many of them have. Well, I know lots of them that their ADHD is so bad they make Ritalin nervous, okay? And it's really hard to get them to focus. But in our system, we put them through a 30-day launch. And most of the time when somebody comes onto our system, which are usually entire companies, although there's lots of individuals that sign themselves up, they've already looked at our website. They already see the results. And if they have any competitive nature in them at all, they're interested, right? But the bigger problem that we run into occasionally is the greatest fear of a lot of reps who've been around for a while isn't the fear of failure. It's not the fear of rejection. It's the fear of being found out. That they don't know how to prospect. They don't know how to handle objections. They never ask for the order. All of these things, they'll put up walls to keep somebody from noticing. But when we put them through our 30-day initial launch, which is a deep dive training in our process, I would say nearly, if not 100, nearly 100% of them come out so fired up to get with their coach, because for the first time in their career, they see that there's actually a model they could be following. Like, most of you were in the room when I asked if this was the deepest sales training this group had ever had in their entire career, and they all raised their hand.
Yeah.
Because when they come into the business, sales training is not about sales. It's about products. It's about services. It's about why we're the best. It's about our financial strength. It's about a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter. Okay?
Exactly.
And when we improve the skills of an individual and they generate a result, basically it's duplication revelation. Once they realize anything they can do once, they can do infinite times. And you realize it here, not here, right? That all of a sudden they start getting excited. Like everyone in every audience that's not brand new to the business that I speak in, once started with no customers. And then they got to a certain point where they became comfortable and complacency set in. You see back here, your comfort zone will kill you, right?
Exactly.
And they stop prospecting. And they don't realize that they want to make more money, they want to perform better, but they stop doing what got them there because now they're busy and in their own mind successful. So, I mean, there's a whole gamut. We could have an entire podcast on this topic alone.
For sure.
But there's a lot of psychology. But once you show people what can be done, and to in a way that it's believable, and that's what our launch does. Man, they're ready to go. And
so,
go ahead.
So you've done the hard work for the title agents and in this industry and figured out the model. Right? You spoke about the model. If you're a small business outside of title and you're trying to determine the appropriate model of sales, I mean, there's consultative selling and there's transactional selling and everything in between. How do you go about that? What would be the first steps you'd say for a small business to figure out what the appropriate model is for their business?
Discovery. I would want to know everything that they're doing now, what has worked the best, what hasn't worked at all. And then we would take the principles that are foundational in our current model that we use with title companies, which, by the way, we use the same model with with mortgage companies. Okay, and we have a different model that's equally as strong in real estate seminars that I'll do for title companies around the nation. I have a friend that owns a computer, I guess, programmer outsourcing company where he'll assign a programmer to a project for a company for a year or whatever. I went in, he asked me to come in and speak, and I did my discovery on how they do it. I took our existing model for title companies and twisted a few things and made it apply directly to what they need to be doing in their business, and they're killing it, right? I got another friend that owns a pest control business, a home inspection business, and years ago I sat down and taught him the model that we give to title companies, but I twisted it for his business. And he's killing it right now. And so, but it's the same process would apply for us if we were talking to a company outside of the title industry that we would tell salespeople to apply. Discovery. I want to know everything about what's working, what's not working, and what you do.
Should discovery start with the founder or with one of the business leaders? I mean, is that where, like, for me to go figure out the model for sales for our company, should it be me driving that initiative up front because I have the most depth of understanding of the market and the solution, or should I hire a rep and let them try to go figure out that discovery process?
Oh no, I wouldn't hire a salesperson first and throw them out there, not without a process. And that's another mistake that a lot of title companies do. They don't have a process, but they know they need a salesperson, so they hire them, and they're out there just trying to figure it out when, man, they're reinventing the wheel. But I'll tell you, when we go into a company and try to help them outside the title industry, which we do, but that's not our niche. We have a lot of friends that own a lot of different companies. When I say discovery, it's really at every level. We'll interview the owner. We'll interview the salespeople, both successful and not so successful. We'll interview some people who operate on the inside from a customer retention standpoint. And then that's kind of a full spectrum discovery. So we want every layer to tell us what we need to know.
Yeah. If as the owner of the business or the leader of the business, as I'm ultimately bringing in my first team or assembling a team, what are a couple things that you would recommend to be an effective sales leader? I see oftentimes, a business owner, take a pest control guy, he's in the business, he understands all the chemicals, he understands all the processes and that stuff, but now he's got a sales team and he's got to lead that team.
Yeah.
What do you recommend as like the steps to do that most effectively?
1994, I was doing a workshop, and a guy came in, and it was on a business leadership topic. And a guy comes comes up to me when it's all over, and he goes, you must have read the E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And I said, I've never heard of the E-Myth. And he goes, hold on. And he runs out to his car, and he was actually a financial planner. And he had a case of those books in his car, and he brought me one. He was giving them to his clients. And he said, you just taught this whole book. And I'm like, I've never seen this book before. And I went and read the book, and it gave me chills because I thought, this guy thinks I'm lying. What I taught in that day was so close to what's in the email that there's no possible way this guy isn't calling me in his head a liar right now. I mean, it was just a match. And the three components that are critical is, and if you haven't read the E-Myth by Michael Gerber, man,
excellent book.
It's an excellent book. It'll make you very excited and very angry all in the same chapter. Okay,
That's
but
right.
you've got to have an entrepreneurial side. You have to have a management capability. You have to have technical skills. Most people that start their own business are great technicians, but they lack the other two.
Right.
They work for a plumbing company. They make $50 an hour. The plumbing company charges $200, and they go, man, I should be making $200. So they go out and buy a van, get a phone number, put it out of the yellow pages, and sit at home and wait for the phone to ring. They don't understand all the work that goes into building their business. When my 39-year-old son last year, after our 30th anniversary party as a company, asked me what I attributed the success of the company to, and I told, well, first of all, I'm a man of faith. And I said, so, that's very foundational in our business. And he goes, okay, what else? Because he's looking for some practical things.
Yeah, right. Give me the real goods.
I said, both Raquel and I get up every day and we go to work as if the company's about to fail. And it's not even close to failing. It's doing fantastic. But that's how we work. Right?
That's the owner's mindset. Yeah.
Buddy, that's it right there. And when you're a really good technician, like, for example, we run into a lot of people that come from the title department of a small company, and that now the owner wants to retire and the title guy buys the company. Great technical skills, have no idea how to generate $1 of revenue. They need our help so badly. But as long as you have all three of those components, and by the way, the three components might have to be owned by you as the owner at first, but ultimately you have to get to the point that you've scaled your business so that, like, for example, for us, every day on my phone at 7 a.m. there's a reminder that pops up that says BTS, which stands for build to sell.
Okay.
And
Great.
not that our company is for sale on the open market, but if I can build it to the point to sell it, that means it can operate without me and I can have a good lifestyle, right? That's my reminder every single day. But most people don't think about that. They think they're very technical and transactional minded, very much victimized by market sways. For us, it's all about sales. Sales solves everything.
It really does. I like to say sales cures all ills.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that BTS, or build to sell, too. I mean, because that is bigger than just go sell more stuff, create more demand gen. This is about your processes and making sure that your team is structured in a way that you're not a critical cog.
You're 100% right. When I started this company, it was me. I mean, I was the receptionist. I was the speaker. I was the trainer. I was the janitor. I had a little office that I went to by myself. And build to sell means hire to replace yourself. And everything about our company is process driven. Everything from how we hire people to how we vet out coaches and vet in coaches and how we find them and what our sales model looks like and who does what and what that machine looks like. I mean, we've got people in place in the companies. We have the best coaches we've ever had. We have Raquel's the president, but she's in the BTS model with me. Kristen Sidman is our VP of Client Results. Her job is to make sure our clients get ROI. She is the front face of the company short of us. And she goes from there. So build to sell, or BTS, means to create a structure that is sustainable without you. Every year we look at two main numbers to track our BTS model. We look at revenue increase for the company, and we look at what percentage of that revenue requires Raquel or myself. Okay? And as long as the percentage that requires us goes down and the overall revenue goes up, we are on track on the BTS model. And every year, those numbers are going exactly the direction we need them to go.
Man, I want everybody to, rewind and listen to that again, because this is so profound. There's a lot of wisdom there. If you want to realize value out of your business, you have to create that structure. You've got to create processes. You've got to have systems. You've got to have a team that can operate without you. Otherwise, you're going to get to the point of selling or exiting your business, and you're not going to realize the full potential of it because you're an integral part. And you might represent risk for that acquirer, right, if you're too integral. So, yeah, make sure that you take that away. That was some gold right there, Darryl. I appreciate that.
Oh, I'm glad.
Yeah. And I could talk to you all day about sales and about leadership and BTS in particular. I think this is a great place to kind of land the plane for today. Thanks so much. If you have kind of maybe one thing to tell people in 2025, is maybe in the title space in particular, what would that be?
Man, you can do it. Focus on sales. Don't focus transactionally. Focus on adding customers. Develop a strategy. If you don't have a sales model, call us. Go to DarrylTurner.com, reach out, or send us an email at info@DarrylTurner.com. We'll help you anywhere we can. We'd love to add you to the list of clients, not just the list of clients, but the list of clients that are performing well. That's what we work to do.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. If you found value in this episode, please subscribe or make sure to share it with a friend or colleague that can get some value from it as well. Thanks again.
Awesome, Mark. Thank you for having me.